Welcome back to another episode of Straight Facts. It's Wednesday. I'm joined by the brilliant Jessica Black. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm well. I'm well. Like when there's no Man United games midweek, I'm a happy boy. I'm a
Mhm.
very happy boy. So yeah, can't complain at all. Packed agenda for us to get through today, and of course, viewers, we want your input on this. We want your comments. We want your live chats. We want we want to know what you're thinking and feeling. We are talking Arsenal. Reece James out. So I've said Arsenal, then Reece James out. Reece James out for up to another month potentially. Could Arsenal catch Chelsea? That's what we're talking about today, this season in the league. We're going to be taking a look at some of the links to Arsenal's summer transfer activity, strikers being hot on the agenda. But what's more important, strikers or midfield players coming into this window for the Gooners? We'll stay with Chelsea as well because more bids are incoming. Jamie Reuben, who's a 10% owner of Newcastle United and from a family worth £21 billion, is said to be looking at taking over at Chelsea Football Club and readying a bid. And we also want to ask a question later on in the show: what ruined Marcus Rashford? So make sure you stay with us. Lots to come up on the show today. Lots to get through, lots to talk about. We want your input as ever on these different talking points. There's a comment there about you. I don't understand. Jess is a bugger, but she does own. I don't know what that means. I know what a bugger means, but like it means you're a little bit of a like a little menace, like in a kiddie kind of way. It's messing, but there we go. Thanks, Strip Bear, for that. Um,
Okay.
Newcastle fan here, Towler, I think that's what I meant to say. It says afternoon. He put Jess. He put your name first, Jess. He said Jess and Terry. Put Jess first.
Yeah, that's right. That's the way
There
it
we
should go.
there we go.
Hmm.
Where do we start? Should we start with Chelsea's takeover? Because I feel like we've had a
Yeah,
number of
yeah.
conversations behind the scenes when it's come to Chelsea's takeover, and it's something that I've done some content on it, but I really want to get your take on Chelsea's takeover. What the types of people and groups looking to buy them, and
Yeah.
how do you feel this is going to go for Chelsea? Because Roman has been forget a minute how he got his money and his political connections. Just remove that. As an owner
Mhm.
for Chelsea, he was sensational. He made them the most successful team in England over the past 20 years. Facts. 2 times Champions League winners, 5 times Premier League winners, and umpteen domestic trophies, world champions, Super Cup champions, everything. How do you think, honestly, in your heart of hearts, how do you think life is going to be for Chelsea when he's actually gone and someone new takes over the reins of the club?
I think it'll be different. Just kind of how you said that Roman Abramovich is um, probably the best type of owner that you could dream of. So I think with I know Chelsea fans are hoping that they get somebody with a lot of money, but like newsflash, every single owner has a lot of money. It just depends on what they envision this investment looking like. And for Roman, he was emotionally invested in Chelsea being very successful. And that doesn't happen very often. Sheikh Mansour, the owner of Man City, is similar as well, is very competitive and not only wants Man City to be a good investment, but successful. Now, when you kind of tick down the levels there, you have like FSG, KSC, the Glazers, and it's a little bit different. It definitely feels a little bit more like, a part of a portfolio. It's very lucrative. It's a lucrative investment for owners to come in and own Premier League teams, and they know that. And so you just have to keep that in mind when you're seeing the owners that are looking to bid for Chelsea. What is their underlying motive? Like, if it's just an investment, they will make business decisions over sporting decisions. And that sometimes can be a little bit hard to swallow for a football fan, especially if Roman was your owner for so long. And when you look at consortiums in particular, um, not to get, I don't want to get into how kind of like Chelsea got to the stature that they are and all that kind of stuff. But let's just say an owner like Abramovich is not going to come into a club like Chelsea where it is right now. They want to come into a club where Chelsea was when he took over. They want to come into a Newcastle or a Man City before Sheikh Mansour. That's what they want. So the idea that you're going to get somebody like that is probably not the reality. You'll get some sort of consortium so that they can share the burden and limit the risk. But the issue with a consortium is that in some circumstances, they're unwilling to really invest fully because they don't have full ownership. So it will be different. That doesn't mean that you won't be successful. We've seen how Liverpool, even under FSG, has been able to kind of turn the tide around. But there's also owners like KSE and the Glazers that are still kind of having a hard time making footballing decisions, or are doing what's best for what's happening on the pitch because they only care about what's going on in their pockets. So it's going to be different. I mean, Roman Abramovich was a blank check, so even when you made mistakes in the market, which Chelsea has, like, even though Chelsea is looked at as like a very well-run club, which they are, ultimately a lot of the mistakes that have been made have been covered up by the fact that Roman was always willing to give you a blank check to just cover it up. So the difference between like having Roman and not is, after failing with Timo Werner and Lukaku, he would give you another check for a Haaland. A new owner will say, deal with what you have. That's the difference that you'll probably be seeing. You have to be ran more like the rest of us. That's different.
And I tend to agree. I think you look at and there's lots of different reports coming out. H. Grimes just tweeted saying that there are lots of bidders, but only 3 have offered between 2.7 and 3 billion for the club. The Guardian have reported that Roman only wants to sell to people with a proper plan to continue the success. The problem that you've got is, I think he's done such a good job, it's almost impossible to match or beat what Roman did. And that isn't a dig at Chelsea. It's just a reality. Is it likely that Man United will ever have a manager again as good as Fergie if he is indeed the GOAT? Well, no. That him being the GOAT, by definition, means that it's highly unlikely to ever have anybody as good as him. Pep Guardiola might end up being the most successful manager in City's history ever. City may never repeat this level of success, dominance and frequency again, not because they're not a well-run club, but being a well-run club with the best manager possible in the world at that time together collectively helps. The same could be said for Chelsea. They may not, I'm not talking about Chelsea regressing to mid-table. They're still going to be a Champions League team. They're still going to be a team that can build title-winning sides. I just don't know if they're going to be as potent or as dominant as they have been in different times, especially in the initial takeover period. You talk about this young lad, 34 years of old, Jamie Reuben, part of the billionaire family, property developers. The family's worth 21 billion. But you've got to remember, you've got to break down that 21 billion. How much of that is cash and how much of that is the properties they own? A huge amount of that is the properties and the premises. They ain't selling their properties to buy Chelsea. If you look at nearly every single one of these deals, and none of us have been given the intricate details, they all look from Conor McGregor through to Nick Candy today, who's married to Holly Valance. I'm not sure who that pop star is. She's Australian, but she was popular here because she's part of a show called Neighbours, which is like an Australian soap that we used to watch here a lot. You've got the Reuben bid here, and then multiple owners from the States. When you look into just a little bit of detail of all these companies, they're all of them consortiums. It's a combination of people putting their money together. Getting another owner like Roman, who essentially wants to be sole proprietor and is willing to pump as much money as he's allowed to pump in each season to make his team successful, I think you haven't got a catch chance in hell of getting that again. And again, unless you're further down the line, even with the situation with the Saudis taking over at Newcastle, it isn't the same type of thing. Newcastle's spending has increased, but not to a level that they couldn't have spent before. They were able to spend it because of the lack of spending prior. They haven't had some new income of money since these guys have arrived. Yes, they can put about 20, 30 million pounds of their own money in per season, or 90 million up front, but no more for a while. They can use their business influence to get better sponsorship deals. But FFP stops owners from going, right, I'm going to give you 200 million, 300 million a summer for the next 3 years to spend on players. and will pay the salaries above and beyond anybody else. That won't happen anymore. And even the links yesterday to Saudi Media Group, they're literally, they're an investment fund. And this is what I would say. You look at a lot of the consortiums or the funds looking to buy Chelsea, investment funds want a return on their investment at some point. It may not be now. It could be an element of the fund that is their medium or their long-term investment strategy. So it might be a certain fund is putting £1 billion in, but in 10 years' time, they want that £1 billion back plus, however much more Chelsea's worth at that time. So all these things that there is to take into consideration. I don't think anybody really, and I haven't seen a single journalist yet go out on a limb to say this person is leading. None of them have done it because no one knows right now. And equally, Roman is only going to know what these people tell him. Roman doing all the due diligence isn't going to stop the Reuben family or Conor McGregor or Nick Candy in 2 or 3 years to say, I'm pumping no more in. We'll just let the club be self-sustainable now. Like, it should be something I wouldn't say Chelsea fans should panic about, but I'm seeing a lot of them talk like, look at all these billionaires. We're going to be absolutely fine and absolutely the same. I think it's
almost everybody's owners are billionaires, have lots of money. Like the Cronkies have more money, like than a lot of owners that spend more than they do. Or, like it doesn't really matter. Like in order to own a football club, you have to have money. That's a prerequisite. It's not a big deal. Like, it's more about what they see this investment looking like. And because Roman decided, you know what, like this is really important for me. Like I want Chelsea to be successful. It's not just a piece of my portfolio. He did things that other owners are unwilling to do because they're only concerned about the business aspect of things. So it doesn't matter. Like, I mean, it does because yeah, you want an owner that has like the most, but what you really need to be more concerned about is how do they envision the club being run?
You've got to remember this. If you look at the one thing that Chelsea fans always say to us is you spend money. Yeah, we spend the club's money. The Glazers have not put 1 cent of their own dollars, their own money into Man United. Now, us being so big globally has enabled us to be able to compete with the spending. Chelsea don't have, they have a big income, but they don't have the same level of income as far as I'm aware of Man United. I haven't actually checked for a while. Let me just Google it. Chelsea's income, as an example. Chelsea make, I was looking for that. I don't care about the losses. I want to know how much money they actually make and bring in. Chelsea's, why are they always, the language is always so poor in it. Turnover. What do they turn over is what I'm looking for here. So the group, here, December 2021, year ending June 2021. So we're talking last financial year. The group turnover figure increased to £434 million as an example. To put that into perspective, if we look at Manchester United, so I'm using this as an example. I'm not too sure what ours was. United's, the last time it was released was 510 million. So you're talking 60 million pounds more Man United bring in a year. However, Roman Abramovich pumps between 20 and 30 million pound a year into that to Chelsea. So instantly take away 20 to 30 million more. There's also the other element that's the kind of the elephant in the room that nobody wants to speak about. It's the loan deal scenario. They have tens and tens and tens and tens and tens and tens and dozens of players out on loan. They are generating tens of millions of pounds a year through the loaning of those players. That's not going completely, but over the next 2 to 3 years, they've got to scale that down. They won't be able to make all those loan fees. So you're looking at easily another 20. I'm going to be really conservative, say 20 million. So you're looking at a minimum 40 million pound a year off that. So suddenly your turnover is 100 to 110 million pound a year less than Manchester United's. How do you then compete? That's my point. Not to get into the top 6. I'm talking where you're right, Jess. If they don't have someone who pumps money in, because if you buy a Timo Werner 40, 50 million and put him on big salaries, you may not be able to go the next summer and go, we'll get Lukaku then. That's where this will differentiate them. It will be more of a case of an FSG approach, a Liverpool approach, where we're going to have to be more mindful. And by the way, United, would have been in this situation if it wasn't for the new TV deal. If it wasn't for the new TV deal money that came in 2013, we would be long behind where we are now because we wouldn't have even had club's own money to spend. So look, I ain't saying Chelsea are in a bad position.
No, and because I wanted to like piggyback on that just a little bit, because I know Chelsea fans are like, oh, you're just projecting and being negative, and that's not true. Because the one thing that I can say about Chelsea that's going to keep them afloat, in which, okay, so like let's go back to a conversation that we had on the last Top 6 show about Chelsea realizing that their squad depth wasn't what they thought it was, maybe when the season first started. They could be, I mean, they have like what, Azpilicueta and Alonso. Let's take Alonso in particular, you know, who they don't really like that much. You know, they don't think he's that good. But how many wing backs do they have on loan? How many really good players do they have out of their academy that are just chilling in the Premier League or in the Championship doing their thing? The fact that they have an academy to the level of academy that they have, which in my opinion is the best academy in England.
Correct.
Like, they don't have not like it's a blessing in disguise, but if you have Broja in your team over Lukaku, maybe you're doing better. If you have Livramento in your team, maybe you don't have an issue with Reece James. Do you hear what I'm saying? Like, so I don't think they're in like panic mode just yet. They're just in a situation where they're going to be operating differently. And like other teams, they're going to have to use academy players. They're not going to be able to just spend, you know, money and not recoup value for some of these guys, or just throw them out on loan. Like, they're going to have to work with some of the things that they have, but what they have to work with in terms of their academy is very, very good. Some of the players that are out are better than what they are playing right now. And so not a blessing in disguise really, but something to, you know, that kind of evens things out, even if they don't have Abramovich just writing those blank checks.
You are absolutely spot on. This isn't about, this is what I said, this isn't about Chelsea panicking. I don't think there's going to be this big drop off, but this is about Chelsea fans realizing they need to be more patient. It is likely that they're not going to spend with the same regularity as they've done before, and a new approach may be taken. The academy was partly set up to help generate the money so they could avoid FFP issues. That's kind of fairly well reported. Certain Chelsea outlets and people will try and smooth that over in a different way, but you know, we haven't seen enough of these brilliant academy players over the last 10 years used regularly for Chelsea. We've started to see that more a little bit now, which is really good to see. You are right. They have to maintain the development levels and the investment in their academy and push that out on the football pitch. But that does mean it may take longer to build teams capable of winning titles. It may take an extra 12 months, extra 24 months, which means you need to show more time and faith in managers. That could be a big step change for a lot of the younger and newer Chelsea fans that are used to almost the instant success that Roman was able to generate. And I think that's what's the intriguing thing here, that people just see, oh, you're a billionaire owner. Roman isn't going to let anybody buy it. Isn't going to behave like him. I don't think there is anyone that's going to behave like Roman. I don't think Roman will find another person who wants to do what he did, who's going to own it on a singularity basis. There's a comment here from Nathaniel, Chelsea fan, says, "True, Terry. I appreciate that." Rashad says, "You're all waffling, to be honest." Listen, you're entitled to that opinion. I think it's more that you probably share our thoughts and feelings, and it's a bit of a concern for you. When people tend to call you a waffler, is when you kind of hit one of their fears on their head, is what I would suggest there. Football no longer is about results, merely money. It's dead. The game is rigged. Also, it looks closer. If you look closer. I don't think football's rigged myself. I don't believe in conspiracy theories of any type anywhere in the world. I think they're all fake, to be honest. Lizards do not run the world. It is what it is. It's going to be an intriguing time for them, for who they get in. In terms of this season, though, they have just lost Reece James. Reece James out for, I've read two different reports, one saying 2 weeks, one saying up to 4 weeks. If it's 4 weeks, then as Daniel says, that's long term. Big up Danny boy. No Chilwell, no Reece James. Chelsea fans say without those two, they can't play to their full potential. Do you think Arsenal this season, and with the new direction, the new ownership and the trajectory of your club, do you think you could overtake Chelsea again? There's two questions in that. Do you think...
Okay, wait. I thought the overtake this, like catch them this season. You mean in life?
I've just said two. I just said two. This season, And do you feel with the trajectory you're going in, do you feel like, if you finish above them this year, do you think you could then get back in front of them now that this new takeover is going on? So I want to talk about this season first and then the takeover again. So do you feel they're catchable now with Reece James being out?
No, not really. I think, well, okay. Do I think that they're catchable in a circuit? Yeah, in a way I do, because 5 points is like nothing in football, really. It's just like Spurs are only 3 points behind us or something like that. Like, it's close, and just a couple of bad results, and you never know what could happen. I think we have a game on Chelsea as well, but we have to play them still. So do I think that they're uncatchable? No. But do I think we will? Probably not. I really want to see where we're going to be after these next 3 games, because they're really difficult, and one of them is against Liverpool. But at the same time, like, 5 points is not, it's not insurmountable. And I do think that if we could get something at Stamford Bridge, and I know Chelsea fans are like, well, we're so much better than you. If you check the results over like the last couple of seasons, y'all don't beat us that much. You really don't. I don't know if we're like your bogey team or like what, but like, you don't beat us that much, even when you're like way superior, So I think that there's a little bit of something there. We may be able to get something, and we'll see. But in terms of like over the next couple of like 5 whatever seasons or something, could we overtake Chelsea? It really just depends on what we're about. Like, you know what I mean? I think there's still some questions around like, can we sustain this level of like trying to push it and get better when we actually do make top 4? There's still that question. Abramovich, no matter what, continued to push Chelsea forward. Will the Cronkies do the same thing? As we get better, will they push to make sure that we win titles and stuff like that? I think we're a long way away from where Chelsea is in terms of the mentality, the ruthlessness, the competitiveness. I think we're still far away from that, and being able to repeat it in a way where, I mean, they've accumulated so many trophies over like the last 10, 15 years. Like, it's insane. So I don't know.
It's an interesting one for me. Like, in terms of, I'll get onto the catching them in a minute. Man like Jem here says, go check our fixture list to the end of April. And I agree. When you look at Chelsea's fixture list coming up, on paper, Norwich away, Newcastle at home, Brentford at home, Southampton away, Leeds away, West Ham at home, Everton away. On paper, yeah, Chelsea win all those games. But the reason I bring up the Reece James situation, again, this is where I just want to get people's true feelings and not, yeah, we'll be fine. When Reece James and Ben Chilwell first got injured or were missing from games, you drew at home with Everton. You drew away to Wolves. You drew with Brighton at home. You lost away to City. You drew with Brighton. You went through that run of games that essentially ended your league title challenge campaign, if that makes sense. I like the fact that Jem and other Chelsea fans say no chance. Look at the fixtures. This is how it should be. I think just because you're missing Reece James, Chelsea Football Club should not be going, oh, that's it. We're in trouble.
I mean, but that's what they, but that's the narrative, isn't it? Anytime that they lose, it's fans. Because we don't have Reece James. It's all fans, but we're talking about Chelsea right now.
Yeah. All fans of all clubs. And I know Dan's point the other day that everything's circumstantial. The circumstances are Man United's squad isn't as good as City's squad, therefore you predict a City win. I get that in its basic form. But at the same time, when you turn around and say we've got a really good, I'm just getting a bit bored. And I get Dan's point. In a court of law, Dan's point stands up. Circumstances change things. We've now lost 2 of our most creative players. Therefore, we've got a reason not to win. I feel like fans are becoming too forgiving of their team's failures by just focusing on these injuries. And I've seen it very varied right across the spectrum all the time. I see graphs of we had our strongest. Look at when we have our strongest team, how many points per game we accumulate versus our competitors, where we'd be in the league. Oh, we had these 2 major injuries. That's why we're not in this race. We had this problem. We had that issue. I'm sort of looking at it. Why don't you just say it that you just weren't good enough? Like, especially the teams that spend all this money. I just find it nauseating. And so I'm glad today to see Chelsea fans say, we'll do it and we'll do it easily, or we shouldn't have any issues at all. I still think there'll be some banana skins in there. I mean, they haven't even arranged yet when Arsenal play Tottenham and when Arsenal play Chelsea. I think where those games sit in the calendar is also going to be key, because if suddenly Chelsea's game with Arsenal is sandwiched between a really tough Champions League tie, that gives Arsenal an advantage maybe, because Chelsea's only hope of a major title this year is the Champions League, because they're not in the title race, if that makes sense. So what are they going to prioritize? What are they going to focus on? I'm not too sure. But look, I don't think it's as clear cut as some people are making out. But I do feel like Arsenal can, if they win that game in hand. And listen, I can see you getting something against Liverpool next week. I don't think that is...
you always say that and we don't get anything. I can see you getting something from Liverpool. Is like almost like...
Hang on, but I felt like I felt like you could get something from the Man City game. Your performance should have led to it. There was a brain fart moment from Gabriel, and then they were able to overpower you. But your home form is sensational. So to act like you can't get something from that game, that's what I would say to Chelsea. If Arsenal win that game and they're 2 points behind them, it's game on for that third position. And I think from a coming third and coming fourth, there isn't a significant difference. You both qualify for the Champions League, etc. But I think psychologically for Arsenal, it would be huge. It would be huge if they could push in front of Chelsea at this point. I think in terms of like overtaking them next year, it's all going to depend on who they get come in and what they do. But listen,
and that team is still so strong. Like I think, like, if Chelsea were to, and this is if Chelsea fans, I know y'all don't want to hear it, but if you guys were to, like, not be as dominant as you have been, it's not going to happen, like, right away. It'll be like, like one of those. It's not going to happen right away. But it all has to do with, like, what we're doing. We've always had, in my opinion, the ability to be way more competitive. We just never did it. Nothing was ever really stopping us. Like, what's been stopping us from being competitive? It's just the owners, right? So it's up to them. But yeah, I don't think we will catch them this season. I think we can make it scary for them, but I don't think we'll catch them. It does depend on what happens at Stamford Bridge as well. Like, I know Chelsea fans think that they're like, they beat us every time they play us. You don't. Liverpool beat us every time they play us. You don't. And I do think we could get something at Stamford Bridge. Saying that right now.
Yeah, I think on the takeover thing, just going back to that quickly, I feel like as rivals of Chelsea in terms of fighting for league positions, we all are. It's fairly exciting what's happening to Chelsea, because the hope is they go backwards. And no, I mean it as no disrespect to our Chelsea viewers. No Chelsea fan on here hopes that Man United get it right this summer and we progress and get better. So you guys getting new owners. And this is where football fans really annoy me with their hypocrisy. You'll probably get some Chelsea fans say, I don't want to listen to you anymore because you said you want our new owner to do badly. Yeah, but do you want my club, Man United, to do well? Well, no, of course not. But yeah, like it's like I am excited to see who it is. If it goes well for them, then the human in me is like, fair play. No, Chelsea fans have got something good. The Man United fan in me wants it to go badly. Why would I want it to go good? It would be one less team we have to try and catch up to. So it's going to be interesting to see how it's done. My club won't surpass you though, because we're run like doo-doo. We have some super chats here. First one says, by the way, City fans, tomorrow we will be reacting to the Madrid-Paris Saint-Germain game. I'm just letting you know, Terry 2022 never changed. I didn't even mean it rudely. I just think, why am I going to unless City lose tonight and go out, why would we react to it? The game's over. The big reaction tonight in the Champions League is that match. Of course, we'll talk City. I'll have the game on, but tonight's game is a damn friendly. Let's have it right. Howdy, Terry. I'm the new Man United Red fan from the US. Since Manchester Red Devils is not doing good in the English Soccer League, why don't they move to America? I'm sure they would be the best team here. They probably. Oh, look, this Man United team would win MLS halfway. MLS is. Honestly, I think Sunday league teams in England could beat most MLS teams. They are so poor. The quality of football over there, it's like watching the 1980s again.
I feel like you guys think that's like a diss. Like nobody in America cares whether you guys think our football is good or not.
The MLS does. The MLS does.
No, they don't. It's entertainment. They don't care. They're making money.
If football is just entertainment and it isn't about like looking good, winning and everything, like
there's no relegation. They don't care.
Hang on. FIFA should ban people from playing it for the reasons you guys do it. It's like sacrilegious. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I don't know. It's like mixing. It's like going out and buying a very expensive bottle of bourbon and mixing it with something. It's Philistines. Don't kill me, but in my opinion, Pep is in the talk of being the greatest manager of all time, as he was the best in 3 leagues, while Sir Alex has been the best in the Premier League. FSG are as bad as Cronkies and Glazers. Listen, I'm not going to shoot you down for an opinion. That's a great argument. I suppose people's counter argument is, but for instance, Bayern Munich, he took over a team that wins the league with and without him. So is it really a great achievement like that? But Pep's in the conversation without a shadow of a doubt to be one of the greatest managers of all time. United have the Glazers, Arsenal, Cronkies, Liverpool, FSG, all bad owners, is what DJ says. We'll never have Roman success, but we'll be fine. Feels like rivals are desperate for us to fall off. Of course we are. Listen, we respect DJ.
What are you talking about?
You DM'd me earlier. Let me ask you this question, and you don't have to super chat the answer, but if you want to, thank you. Do you want Man United, Arsenal, Tottenham, and Liverpool to be successful and like win the league and win Champions Leagues? Do you want that as a Chelsea fan? That's what I mean. Like,
I don't feel like in this conversation we haven't said like it's 100% guaranteed that you guys are gonna fall down or anything like that. We've spoken about it from both sides. Like, I feel like when these kind of statements come out, like you're just desperate for us to fall off and I think you think similarly to what we think. You're looking at the owners that you're being linked with and you're like, okay, are they going to be the same as Roman? What makes you think you'll indefinitely be fine? You know, the Cronkies, FSG, and the Glazers are all American owners. You guys are linked with hella American owners. There's not a single American owner that anybody would consider amazing, you know? So we're talking about it from both sides, but I feel like this type of super chat makes me think that you guys are a little bit more worried than what you let on, because I don't think we sounded desperate for you guys to fall off.
What's interesting? Yeah, I mean, I'm not. There's no desperation for it. Like, I'm not praying for it. But it's just, there is a part of me like, oh, it would be fun if they did. Jem here says, you're hoping we go backwards, of course. I don't think we do unless the new owner treats the club like Man United, a franchise. Well, that's funny.
And that's what we're saying. You could potentially get an owner like that. It's not out of the realm of possibility.
Two of the people that are putting bids, when you look at the statements from other members of their consortiums, they've used the words like a football franchise is something we'd like to own. So people trying to buy Chelsea see it as a franchise. Like, this is like even the people.
It's not different. They're not different.
Even the likes of Nick Candy and Jamie Reuben. You have to look at the makeup and who and what's funding the buying of if it's a consortium that's being funded by an investment fund, a hedge fund, something that needs to yield a return at some point to its investors. That's something to be concerned about. Like, that's just a financial fact. Top 5 combined goals and assist players under the age of 21. Saka, Smith Rowe, Foden, Martinelli, and Michael Elise. Thank you very much for that. And obviously a lot of talk I've seen everywhere about, do Arsenal have the best young players in the league? I think right now you've got the most informed young players as like a collective together, if that makes sense.
I think we have some of the best young players.
Yeah, well, it's undeniable. To deny it, I think, is just disrespectful to Arsenal. AMT, thank you for that chat. Jess has a way with words. She has mastered the art of not getting clipped. We all know how a gal would answer the question Terry just asked her. Well, listen, that's not on me. That's not. Jess is very good at that now. Jess likes to play diplomat. When Jess is with her Arsenal fans, she's all like, yeah. The hype. When she's with more rivals, she's like, no, I'm more balanced. I know Jess is game. Flip-flop. That's what Jess is. It's a joke, everyone. I don't mean it. You keep saying the same about Spurs 2-2, despite Arsenal not winning away at Tottenham in like a decade. Yeah, but do you know what it's about, Bill? When you predict the result of a football match, it isn't about how I felt at the start of the season or 2 months ago. When I was talking about when Arsenal were meant to go and play Tottenham, which is why it's so interesting seeing Arsenal's run of the last 10 games. It could have looked very different if they didn't have these games skipped, but it doesn't, so it isn't. But when they were meant to play Tottenham, I predicted a Tottenham win because Tottenham's team versus the issues that Arsenal had with fitness, there was no way, in my opinion, Arsenal were going to win. However, the trajectory's changed now. The lie of the land is different. Arsenal are in some of the best form I've seen them in. They've got players everywhere that are potent. Partey and Xhaka are now as a collective in the middle playing well together, which I don't feel they've really done for the majority of the season. And they are, for me now, watching playing better. So, Bill, you can't predict a game that's maybe going to take place in April by the same standards that you were judging the teams on in November or December, because the world does change. It does change.
By the way, like, I'm aware of our record against Tottenham away, and so I predict a draw in that match. I'm not sure that we're going to win. My thing about the Stamford Bridge going to Chelsea is that I've seen us get points there over the last 2 seasons, so I'm predicting that we'll get something there as well. I keep that in mind. I know we're going to beat Spurs at home if we play them there, but yeah, I get that. Like,
I do get that. Jem says there's always banana skins, but Chelsea should get maximum points even if they draw or lose a game. Yeah, and I hear you on that, Jem. They should on paper. And like I've said, I know some people are going, well, you said that circumstances don't play a part in football. They do. They do. But like I've said, back in the day when Jose and Fergie and Wenger were winning titles, they all had injuries and problems, but we still expected our clubs to win with the strength and depth we've got. I kind of feel like what we do is we either paint over these things you'll ask a Chelsea fan in the summer, do you feel your squad's good enough to win the league? Yeah, absolutely. You lose 2 players and it's like, I'm not strong enough to win it. So which is it? Are you lying now or are you lying then? Like, I think there's this propensity sometimes to want to be overly positive about your team when you don't necessarily need to be. So I hear you on that. C here says, as a Chelsea fan, I care more about what business structure model we are going to have moving forward. Reuben is a one-of-a-kind owner and will the desire for cups and winning stay the same? I think
there you go. I mean, that's it, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Is the new owner going to desire winning and being the best club? Like, that was very unique to Reuben. Not all owners are like that. I know Terry and I can speak to that. Not every owner is like that. And so when you look at the guy, like the owners that you guys are being linked with, when I see that some of them it's a consortium, and there's Americans involved, I'm thinking, not sure, like, you know what I mean? And I'm speaking from my own experience, like they just don't view it the same. And like the Glazers, FSG, the Cronkies, these guys are buddies. These are golf buddies, like, and they'll tell their little friends like, hey, this is a good way to make some money. Like, you know what I mean? Like they think that this is a really good investment, a part of their portfolio.
Exactly. Yeah, Man United owners take some money out the club, but United is primarily used as an asset to secure other business deals. They've bought malls, but they've used Man United as the asset for if it goes wrong, theoretically, the bank could take Old Trafford away. It would probably never come to that, but on paper, that's how these things are structured. I think you're right, though, to say that as well. It's always the structure and the model, because Man United still spend money, but we're not successful. Everton since Everton's billionaire owner took pretty much full charge in around the January-February 2016, they have spent 480 million. I'm saying million like Del Boy, because they've done it like a dodgy market trader. 480 million pounds on players. And I hope they get relegated. And I need them to get relegated as a sign to people that spending money doesn't mean being backed. Managers are not backed just simply because your club spend money. It is a fallacy. And it's what's pushed out there? It's lazy journalism that has poorly educated our fan bases for the past 20 years that spending money means being backed. Backing a manager means having a structure, the right people in the right positions making decisions, perseverance, and actually a little bit more time and support needed, giving the manager the majority of the power at all times so he can do what he needs to do, and then maintaining that if you've got a conveyor belt approach with managers and one manager leaves, you maintain the standards and the culture and the structure and the football philosophy that you've tried to build. You don't do what Spurs did, where you go from a Poch to a Jose to a Nuno to a Conte. Where's the continuity even in just footballing philosophy? Everton, look at Everton's managers that they've gone to and from. How do you go from a Rafa to a Lampard? How do you go? You go from an Ancelotti to a Rafa to a Lampard. Very good football with excellent structure, winning pedigree and experience in Ancelotti. Rafa, who is past his best but a pragmatist, to Lampard with no experience, who tries to play expansively but can't structure his backline. The money is irrelevant unless you are structured well. And again, I have to keep talking. I'll talk about this until I'm blue in the face. Like, the money is not even it. We're going to be going to the quick fire round question soon. There's an interesting comment that's come through that I want to go to.
I said we were going to talk about Arsenal.
We are going to go to that. We're going to get into that. But there's a question within it. Don't worry, we will speak about your little Arsenal some more, I promise.
That's why I'm here.
We can banter them, but there is not a single team in the Premier League that have the quality of young players as Arsenal have. They are the best players in their team. I think to a degree, I agree. I'm just trying to think of anyone that isn't considered a youngster that's better than in that group. You'd probably put Tierney when he's fit in that group, if that makes sense.
In the what?
In your group of best players. I think he's one of your best, but he ain't fit enough. But yeah, your youngsters predominantly, if you think about your top 5 players, most of them are your young players. It's true.
Yeah, Saka, Odegaard, ESR, Martinelli.
Yeah, young'uns. I'm hearing that the Kings owner wants to buy. If he buys, Chelsea fans should protest. The Kings are the worst managed franchise in the NBA. Yeah, I don't watch netball, but I've heard a lot of people talk about that.
It's basketball.
Yeah, same thing.
Yeah, this is all I'm saying, Chelsea fans, is it's not salt. It's just the reality. We know how these guys operate because you got 3 huge clubs operating with American owners that have other American franchises, and we know how they do business. It's not salt. It's literal. You can see it with your own eyes. Do you want to be Arsenal, Manchester United, or Liverpool? From before FSG started to get their stuff together? No. And that's all I'm saying. Do you want us to really sit here and say, yeah, you guys are getting a Saudi, it's going to be the same? This is straight facts. This is not, make Chelsea fans happy day. You know what I mean?
I hear you. Story that broke today about Arsenal, that I want to get your take on, that you are looking and watching Dominic Calvert-Lewin, Alexander Isak, Jonathan David, Nunez, and Broja of Chelsea. And it's kind of a question to the audience as well. You're not going to buy all of them. Who's your pick out of that group that you seem to be scouting to essentially replace Lacazette, to be the main striker? Who is the man or boy in some of these cases? Some of these guys are boys that you want to come in and play for Arsenal, Jess. Who would be for you the linchpin? Who's the person that you need the most?
I don't like that list at all. I want João Felix. That's the player that I want. But
who? Sorry.
João Felix. I'd prefer that guy. But looking at that list, maybe Broja is probably the best. But with Chelsea going through what they're going through, potentially, I can't see that happening. And I don't think they'd want to sell him to us. Dominic Calvert-Lewin looks dead, doesn't he?
Yeah. That's the list. I've tweeted the list out with the link there. That is the list there. I don't know.
It's okay. Here's the thing is that we all understand, and everybody who's looking for a striker, Man City, Manchester United, potentially Chelsea, and Arsenal, are going to understand that this striker market is not very good. Everything below Haaland and Mbappe is what is this? Especially now that Vlahovic is at Juventus. So you have to pick who's best for what you're trying to do. And for me, it's like we need 2 strikers, because the standard, I think, also said that we're looking at 2 strikers. We can't just get one, you know? So my hope is that we go after João Felix and bring in one of these other guys as well. Gosh, if he didn't look so dead, I'd say Dominic Calvert-Lewin, because I think we need like a presence in the box. We just don't have it. We need just somebody up there that's like aggressive and will get his head on the ball and all that kind of stuff. But he just doesn't look the same after his injury. Like, he just doesn't. Darwin Nunez is interesting, but he's doing so well in the Portuguese league, but it's the Portuguese league. Like, you know what I mean? So you literally have to take that in consideration, but he's very good. Yeah, Nunez is probably the best in terms of like all around, like exactly what you want. But how is that going to translate to the Premier League, and will he be ready and all that kind of stuff? I'm not really that sold on like Jonathan David. And I think that was it, right? Broja. Yeah. And Isak.
Yeah.
Isak is another one that obviously in January we were like, oh, just go get him. No, let that one go. Like, ain't nobody paying that release clause.
It's intriguing because you are looking, as you say, at 2 strikers. Because maybe, I mean, Lacazette's deal runs out, and I think there is some. I've seen things on Twitter, not some random account. I've seen people share sort of links and stories around maybe offering him a new kind of deal.
I think Arsenal want to. Like, I do think Arsenal want to offer him a new like an extension. Yeah.
Because I think there's that element of, someone says Terry's rattled again. I don't know what I'm rattled about. Very strange comment, Alexa. Very, very weird. If you could,
rattle?
I think no. I'm just trying to word it the right way. I think giving Lacazette a new deal. Chelsea did this with Giroud. Now, I'm not saying that they should have done it, but you can give him a new deal, and then it gives you that comfort blanket in case you don't land the 2 targets that you want. If he leaves, what I mean is, if Lacazette was to go, and then you only land 1 striker, you're left with a hole in the squad. So there is that kind of, because you've got other areas you're focusing on. And one of the other things I was going to say, the quick fire questions, is I'm starting to see a lot of this from your fan base. If you get to Champions League, a lot of people are talking about Declan Rice coming into your middle. Like, do you think you'll be able to pull off deals of that magnitude if you make the Champions League?
No. I mean, I don't think Rice is coming to Arsenal. Do I think we can make big signings? Yes. Like, it's something about Declan Rice that just, I cannot see him in an Arsenal kit. Like, I just don't, it's weird. Like, I just don't see it. And so I'm reluctant to even start to think about it. Like, there's no links, there's nothing. And I just feel like at this point, if we were interested in him, we would know. Like, you know what I mean? Like, somebody would have said something. Everybody knows the clubs that are interested in him, Chelsea and Man United. We haven't been mentioned at all. And so for me, it's like the Rice thing I just can't get involved with. But I think we'll make a big signing in one of the 2 positions. And when I say like big signing, what I mean is we'll spend a lot of money, like up like 60 million plus on one of those positions, but we will address central midfield and striker. Personally, I think we'll go big on striker, because the market for central midfielders, you could improve your team in the midfield with with players that would cost between 30 and 40. You could improve your team. With striker, you're going to have to spend a little bit more. So I think we go big in striker, and we kind of get a midfielder. Maybe people won't be excited about it, but he won't cost a lot, but he'll be better than Xhaka. Like, you know what I mean? But I think we can pull off big signings. Is Declan Rice that signing? No. Like, I just don't see it. Like, there's no connection. Like, I don't feel it. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah.
I agree with you in the sense of, I've seen no link to him. It reminds me a little bit of somebody told me that we're going to be getting Jack Grealish. You can't remember a lot of those. There's like non-journalists,
yeah.
Arsenal fans, sort of like, I've been told we're getting this. This feels very Jack Grealish to me. Almost Arsenal fans only, and I'm talking very much like the murmurs of it, if that makes sense. But like they're just like
Yeah.
on a regular basis, but there's no credibility to it. And I almost feel like I understand having an opinion on thinking Declan Rice could make your team amazing. I get that. But the way I'm starting, just see just some tweets, and I'm soon sure we'll see it in content. People are starting to kind of ride out for it, and I'm like, why are you riding out for a deal that is probably never gonna? It doesn't make sense to me. Like, focus on what you can get or a link to, rather than him. You know, I would
Well,
love.
that's
I would like Verratti at Man United, but I'm not going to start to. If we're linked to Hadara and Rice, I'm not going to sit there and go, it has to be Verratti. Why don't we get? Because we're not getting him. It's just a waste of energy for me.
yeah, that's kind of how I feel. And like now that we're kind of, and I don't care whether we finish in the Champions League or Europa League, we need to have the same type of window. Like I don't care. Like if you finish fifth or sixth, you still need to have the same type of window. And so for me, like, and I'm very like, okay, this is what I would like to see happen. Like I would like us to go get João Felix. Like that's the player that I want. And then the midfielder, I like Fabian Ruiz from Napoli. I think that's the player that you go get to replace Xhaka. Not that hard. But we're also looking at a right back, a left-sided center back, and a winger. So other things need to get done. But those are the two players that I really like, and those are players that I think we could get.
Yeah, I think you could do it. Look, and the list of strikers that have been linked in the standard today, I think they're all good at different levels. The only one that I look at as being completely unattainable for you is, bro, just with everything going on at Chelsea, I don't see why. Again, maybe Chelsea do something mad, but I don't see why they sell him to a domestic rival, and you are in the grand scheme of things for positions with your progression this season. Why they give him one of their young prospects without even giving him a try in the Chelsea kit? Like
I mean, if he was in their team, like they would be fine. Like I can't see them selling. And like the thing about them, it's like if they do sell him, they'll sell him like abroad or to a team that's never going to really like do anything with a buyback clause and all that. And Arsenal would never accept a buyback clause on a striker that they're going to pay 60 million for, because that's the quoted price anyway. So Broja is probably I love Broja. Like I think he's a very good player. He really has grown on me. Shout out to Ram. He told me that he was great and I didn't believe him at first, but he's really good. But I can't see Chelsea really letting him go. So yeah, my thing is go get João Felix, because everybody else is mid to me. Like everybody else is just plain Jane. Like they're not going to really improve us that much. Dominic Calvert-Lewin, the guy just like, what is it? Like, it's just not good enough.
Yeah, Calvert-Lewin for me, he had like a really good start to a season a little while back and hasn't done. I know he had an injury, but I don't think he's anywhere near the standard that people were talking about him being. And he ain't even. He's 24, so he's going to turn 25 in a few weeks' time. I'm not saying he's a bad striker, but you look at it like this: he had those 2 seasons. He scored 15 and 21 goals across all competitions across 2019, 20 and 2020, 2021. But like it's 3 goals this season. Either side of that, like it was a little purple patch. And I know Chelsea, the one thing you would say where you give him not credit, but you would say is a lot of that was when he was playing under like a better manager in Ancelotti. The team was in a better position, but he hasn't looked good at all recently.
No, it's scary. And like my whole thing with, because I've looked at all of that stuff and I'm like, okay, he's been hurt this season, so chuck that out. But like Everton, it's just it would be such a risk. He only really looked good when James Rodriguez was there. That's the only time he looked good, because strikers need somebody to feed them the ball. And like they had a nice little partnership going or whatever. But I don't know. Like I think I would be really disappointed, but we need to get 2 strikers in, but if it was and the more I think about it, like, and I know that this probably sounds crazy because he's not that amazing, but I probably would try to extend Lacazette and then bring in João Felix. And then, because we have so many positions that we need to fill, like, it's not just that. We need a left winger, we need a left-sided center back, and we may need a right back. So would I be devastated if Lacazette stayed for another 2 seasons? No, like, as long as we got the main striker, that's kind of where I'm at with everything. But yeah, Arsenal have a lot of work to do,
hell of a lot of work ahead to keep the progression going. And, everyone's recognized it this year. It's going to be such an interesting year. I know every summer's big for all teams, but I feel like this one, there's even more on this, if it makes sense. It just feels like there's something kind of else here in terms of you've got yourself in front of Tottenham and Man United. Have a good summer with the right players who fit the system. And it could be that it almost feels like it doesn't matter what Man United or Tottenham do, they ain't catching you. If you grow from this point and start the season, which it feels like you never really do, and I haven't researched it to know whether it's fact, it's more of a feeling, but you seem to start seasons slowly, the last couple of years at least. And almost if you can start a season well, beyond 6, 7, 8, 9 points after three games, 4 games, and use that as a base, like could be an absolute, if you think about those first 3 games this season where I think you lost all 3. If you'd have even walked away with 5 points, 6 points from those games, which was doable, like potentially, like with the way you're playing now.
Was it? Oh, was
the way
it?
Again, you're not listening to me. The way you're playing now. So if you take
4 points max was on offer.
Okay. But how you're playing now, coupled with 3 or 4 new players that make you even better, if you can start a season, forget who you're playing. I'm talking about points accumulation here. Add an extra 5 points, even add 4 points onto where you are now. And look where you are in the league. Yes, you're just behind Chelsea still, but you win your game in hand and you're in front of them. Like, I do feel like Arsenal in this really interesting position where a good summer and you can go to that next level, which stops your competitors from catching you. So it's a compliment, by the way. It's not meant to make you feel more pressure, but it's weird. You can't compliment.
No, there's always going to be pressure, though. Like, that's the reality, like, right? Is that the better you get, the more pressure there is to continue that. And so I expect a big summer. And I expect the next summer to be a big summer. It's Arsenal. Like, we need big summers. Like, so yeah, this one is a big one. They got to get it 100% right. It doesn't matter where we finish. It needs to be big. And if it's done right, I think we could really fight to make sure that we secure top 4. And yeah, I'm excited, but at the same time, a little bit like, oh my gosh, what if they mess it up?
I hear that. Bill here says, equally, Arsenal's young players could regress next year, as it happens so often with young players at big clubs, and the conversation changes yet again. Clubs work them out, etc. Is that something Arsenal fans are talking about at all? Is that in the kind of narrative at the minute, or
no? Some people do. I mean, obviously, I think it's up to us to speak highly of our young players because nobody else will, right? But at the same time, like, there is an element of all of them are not going to make it. Like, there's going to be a player, maybe 2, that just don't pan out the way that we think that they're going to. But even though that's something that we all kind of know, I don't think it's a conversation that needs to be had until it starts to be seen. We just have to hope that it all comes together. But yeah, maybe one or 2 don't really hit the heights that we think that they're going to. Maybe we got another Joe Willock in there. We don't know, but we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, look, it can happen. The young players are inconsistent by definition. I think this is why in the summer, some more experience is needed to support. I don't think it's sensible to go year in, year out, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years on the bounce, where your young and developing players are your linchpins and are your best players across the park. It's almost adding that experience in different areas where you just, especially as you progress, what will happen very quickly is expectations increase. So people will suddenly expect, well, we made top 4, so we make it more securely. Or look, we're only finished 6 points behind this team, this challenge. Everyone's got different expectations. And it's hard when you're young. And I feel like if you go back through history and look at really good teams that had like a core of young players in, if you actually look at the elder statesmen that were with them, and case in points, class of 92, and Barca's academy players that came through, I know PK came back, but you had PK, you had a younger Busquets, of course you had Messi as part of that. If you look at the experience they had around them, it helps their development. So I feel like Arsenal need to sort of, and they've kind of tried to do that with Partey. Of course, Xhaka's still there. Hasn't kind of worked out how people want it, especially with Xhaka. But I think if you could get that right, I think that's why, to your point, I think you're absolutely spot on. I know you've had some conversations Arsenal-wise with this. That's why I think maybe keeping Lacazette for another year or two could be so beneficial to this squad, because it's just having some older people in that dressing room helping to bind it all together, you know?
There's just so much disrespect when it comes to experience and knowing what to do when the opportunity arises. And no, Lacazette hasn't won the World Cup and he's not the best player in the world, but there's Arsenal fans that feel like we should drop him out of the team and play Martinelli, ESR, because we need to get all of our young players in the team at once. And I just don't get it. Like, the reason why we play well is because when our senior players play well, we play well. The young players, of course, but when Xhaka and Partey show up and Lacazette plays well, we tend to play much better. And you can't substitute good experience. Like, we have our issues with some of our older players, but I just have this weird feeling like if you get rid of both of, and he's problematic, but get rid of Xhaka and Lacazette this summer and just leave Thomas Partey as the only senior player, we may regress. Because I don't think people really understand like how much of a job they're actually doing.
I agree.
But the young players get all the plaudits, but like we saw what it was like without Xhaka and Thomas Partey in our midfield. You can't just do it with kids. Like it just doesn't.
You're absolutely right. And it's funny. I mean, I read an article back in December that spoke about 5 of the most promising young squads in Europe, and they included Barcelona's because they've got some very talented players there. Arsenal's was on the list. Dortmund were on the list. AC Milan were on the list, and Leeds. And AC Milan are kind of pushing for a title, but AC Milan, they do have experienced elder statesmen within their setup, as an example. They've got some older players there that have won things. If I'm not mistaken, obviously we know Zlatan is there. Is Dzeko there?
No, he's in Inter.
No? Is he at Inter?
Yeah, but they have Giroud, they have Ibra.
I've got Giroud and him the wrong way around. They have that experience in there. When you start looking at the other squad, I mean, people that have really been at the highest level, like Olivier Giroud, he isn't world class. Man's won a World Cup. Like he understands how to handle these pressures. Leeds United were another team on that list with a really good young squad. But when you think about the experienced players in those squad mentions, the Dortmunds, the Arsenals, the Barças, the experience is nearly all gone. I know Busquets is still there and a few others in PK, but a lot of it is gone, and it's then quality of those individual players. And I just think that's where Arsenal, if they get that right this summer, and I don't quite know who these people are because that ain't my job, but if they get that right, they can be very, very dangerous. Very, very dangerous from a rival perspective, especially. Viewers, make sure like buttons have been smashed. Get any comments in that you want to put in. We have a member chat, super chat here that says, Terry, thank you for the content. You too, Jess, is what Star Lord has got to say here. Samuel said in a super chat that I missed. I can't find it now, but here it is. He said, Arsenal should sign Richarlison.
Okay. I love my Brazilian players. You guys know that. No. Equally, he's definitely probably one of the players, him and Gordon, that shouldn't go down with them. Like, those are their two players that I was like, they don't deserve to go down with this team. But I don't want Richarlison at Arsenal. I just don't.
He ain't good enough for a top team in the Prem, in my opinion.
He would be gone at this point if he were, right? Like, we haven't even really... No, but didn't Everton turn down a big bid from, like, Barcelona or PSG, like, at one point? Somebody in the comment section will let us know.
Maybe.
I think they did, like, a while ago, but, like, no. It's not my... Yeah.
Richarlison bid rejected. I'll just Google it.
Yeah, I feel like it's
Yeah. So Everton reject Barca's £85 million. That was in January 2020. Yeah. So again, this is where they were again, but
Barcelona are stupid, right?
They are, and also, but Everton will feel stupid, but they thought they were building something at this point. Everton. This has happened many, many times. Remember, Wolves turned down an inquiry of about £70 million from City for Adama Traore. They ended up losing him for what, like 10 million or something. So sometimes you got to sell. It doesn't always work out. 85 mil. That was huge.
And to somebody that was just really quick, if I can, like somebody was like, Jessica, check João Felix's release clause. You don't always have to pay the release clause of a player in La Liga. That's only if the team is like unwilling to negotiate. But what we do know about Atletico and Simeone and João Felix is that it's not working out. And so they're going to want to recoup as much money as they possibly can because they spent like 120 million euros on him. And the only teams that could afford him and give them as much money back is from the Premier League. So if both parties are willing to part ways, then you need to negotiate with teams and you'll take a loss. And so you don't actually have to pay the release clause just because they have one. Otherwise, nobody would be buying them players because they all have stupid release clauses.
Yeah, of course. It's all about them wanting to go. And does he want to go? And clubs nowadays very rarely hold players against their will because it sets a bad mood into and they never used to either. The managers don't want a bad feeling and vibe in that dressing room. Of course, with a huge clause, it's going to cost you a big... I mean, how much do you think it would cost you? Is it what could be 80, 90, 100 million? Or do you think it'd be less than...
I think it's going to be like, I see 75, 80, something around there. That's what I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's an expensive Odegaard, basically. Type deal.
Yeah. I mean, what happens to Odegaard then, though? In your before we move on to United, what would happen to Odegaard in terms of that position? Because obviously, I know that João Felix, is it they both play, but there is no like out and out 9? Is that how it would work for you?
Yeah, I think João Felix could play centrally because Odegaard's playing like a right 8 now anyway. We're basically playing a 4-3-3 or a 4-1-4-1 or whatever. So he would play through the middle.
Fair enough. Jess, do you know he signed a 7-year contract? Yeah, I mean, that's why it's going to cost big money. Like, that's why they're not going to cost a lot. It's going to cost huge money. And the worst thing for Arsenal right now is bad and good. If he has a good little Champions League right now and like lights it up, it's adding millions.
So he's starting to get into form as well. But this is not my problem. This is Arsenal's problem. You need to buy a good player, and he's going to cost you cash, and that's why you keep Lacazette so that you can spend as much money possible on the striker. I think we need to spend the most on the striker.
This is one of those, I keep talking about these acid tests. I know you and Arsenal fans don't like hearing it, but I'm not saying this is where you see you're not going to progress, you're not going to move forward, but this is where you see where your club is at. If João Felix is available this summer for 90 million and your club says no and buys someone not as good for half the price, but then doesn't reinvest elsewhere, that's when as fans, that's where you got to keep the pressure on the Cronkies, because if you get this Champions League money, that's 50, 60 million extra coming into your coffers that none of you expected at the start of the season, barring Curran. Like, none of you really expected at the start of the season. So if you then don't see even that you spent 150 million pounds last summer, give or take, you've got to be doing 150 to 200 million pound this summer, bare minimum, if you make the Champions League, to progress to where they want Arsenal to be. That's the only time I think you guys need to keep the pressure on them is, okay, let's go and spend it. Like, let's go and get... Ironically, if you get Declan Rice and João Felix, I know 2 Arsenal wishes, that is 180 mil. Like, straight out. That's all you're getting. That's also another reason why you've got to be careful, because there are sometimes you can get... Like, I look at Basuma as an example. Do I think Declan Rice is 60 million pounds better than Basuma? No. I don't think he is. So it could be, Basuma...
There's better value in the market in midfield. I don't think we need to spend 100 million on a midfielder. I think we could spend 30 to 40 and be in a much better place. But
Fred's available. McTominay, give him.
But in the striker situation, like anybody that we go after, whether it's Darwin Nunez, I know like those Portuguese teams want to make as much money as possible. So it doesn't matter. Like, we're gonna have to spend 60 plus. Like, I just already know on either 1 or 2 strikers. I'd rather us just go after the best possible player with the highest ceiling and make a statement with it. I mean, we were willing to go after Vlahovic. Why not swing that money over? We didn't get a striker in January because we didn't want to go after the wrong person. I expect us to spend it in the summer.
And that's the energy I'm talking about. You were willing to spend 70, 80 million on Vlahovic. You were willing to pay his agent. You know this for a fact, how much you're willing to give the agent. Like, if you make the Champions League, you've got to be willing to, you have to spend more. If you don't, on like single players, then you've got to ask them questions. But we'll see. On Man United, it's not Man United per se. I want to ask you this question. Marcus Rashford is due to be dropped from the England squad. There is talk that he has got very little time left to get an England spot at the World Cup. He has spoke this week, as we touched on Straight Facts, that he's maybe looking for clarity, maybe looking to leave, not happy with things, but he is being professional, but he's looking to leave. What do you think has ruined or made Rashford regress? Or do you think he hasn't regressed? This is the level he's always been at. He's just stopped scoring goals.
I don't know if I feel like he's regressed per se. I think I feel like he has stalled, like in terms of his development. I think he's been the same player for about 2 seasons now. And so now he's like 24, 25 years old. And so he's entering into his prime, but he's not really developed past that young player that was so promising. Because, you know, if you're a young player playing like Rashford, he's super talented. But 24, 25 playing like this, still making bad decisions on the ball, super selfish, you know, not really taking it to the next level. It's not the same. So I think he's in bad form, you know. I don't think he's going backward. Like, I think there's still a player there. It's just he's in bad form, but he's ultimately not getting better. So right now he's a good player in bad form. That's what I think. I'm not about to sit here and say that I think Rashford is trash. I don't think he is. I think the reason is, like, look at the club and look what the club has been through. Like, you know, it's just the manager changes. Has anybody gotten better at Man United? It's not just him, right? Like, who's gotten better? Like, nobody, right? So
and that's a great.
Yeah, I don't think it's just him, but it's the club. And then there's a period of time where he was playing for a long period of time where he was injured. You know, he was like injured, playing through like bad injury. And then he came back from that injury and he's just never really been the same. So I think he's just a good player that hasn't gotten any better. And that's the club and maybe a little bit of him. You know, maybe he thought he was so good and didn't have to progress. But equally, who's at Manchester United saying, like, you need to continue to progress? I mean, at a certain point, I mean, think about where you guys were last season. Do you think there were conversations about how those players needed to get better? Or do you think that it was just we were the second place team? We're right there on the doorstep. Like, I'm not sure that the culture is really set up there where it's like, what's the next step? You know, I think there's some complacency, but equally, like, what is the culture like? Is it pushing players forward? Like, you know, I don't know, because nobody's getting better. It's not just him.
You do know, you just said it, like, and that's a compliment to you. Look, everyone's got a difference of opinion of how good Rashford was. And there were some people from day one didn't like him. Cool. I don't really care about that. What I find very interesting, if I look at the United fan base assessing him, some people that would tell you that, like, Ice Cold Martial and Paul Pogba as examples were absolute outright ballers and would kill it. And it was only Ollie that was making them bad, or Jose that was making them bad. They still haven't created the same level of consistency at the club that we'd all hope. And the reasons that I've always given to those players is the system change, the lack of coaching, bad attitude of the club that seeps into the dressing room. Rashford isn't as talented as either of those two players, and being talented and performing better than them. So I think you can be less talented but be better than somebody, because better is what you actually deliver versus how good you could be, in my interpretation. And Mark, there's a few things that have ruined Marcus Rashford. I think the club in itself has. If better technical players like Pogba and Martial have not improved, regressed, gone worse, whatever it is, whatever phrase you want to use, fine. When players like Angel Di Maria and have fallen away, when you brought in players at the like Premier Memphis Depay didn't work out here as an example. We brought umpteen fullbacks to try and work, and they've regressed. You know, go back and look at the clubs that wanted to sign AWB when he came in. Still a raw talent, only 1 year into his professional career, zero improvement really from a technical standpoint. The regression of the majority of players we buy, whether they're established stars or young, is there to be seen. And that's everything you've said: standards, training, etc. Rashford isn't getting the kind of that applied to him, because people are, a lot of United fans are angry with him. They see, again, we live in this weird. I was listening to a space earlier, and I think they hit the nail on the head. Someone said, they were sitting there saying, I'm disgusted with how Man United fans treat Martial and Donny. And someone says, yeah, but the way they talk about him, things they say, there's no respect. They don't think about any of the problems they may be going through, why they might have gone backwards, why it might not have worked. And someone says, but you do the exact same thing with Rashford. And the person's response was, yeah, but I only give it to Rashford because I only treat Rashford this way because of how other people treat Donny and Martial. And it made me just laugh. I left the space straight away because I thought, I can't listen to that because I've got a brain. But I was sort of thinking to myself, like, that's also part of the issue here. People don't realize the pressure that we then put upon the players and the pressure that's being inflicted on all of them. I think what's damaged the Martials and the Rashfords at the club partly has been the fan pressure, the fan wars amongst them, and the way they play them all off against each other. It creates this necessity for you to have to perform. Otherwise, what you're getting across socials is absolute a tidal wave of abuse. So I think the lack of consistency at the club, the fan treatment of the players, and I put it all into the same box. Whether you're pro Rashford or pro Martial, you're all scum to this football club. Scum. You've made this football club worse with your playing players off, the abuse you give to players. I'm talking about people that abuse. So if you're someone that doesn't abuse and you just criticize, you're not in that conversation. If you're taking offense from it, then you know you're abusing people. I saw a Man United fan tweet about 2 weeks ago saying Marcus Rashford, for him being picked over Martial, should have a special place in hell reserved for him. That's how deep it's got with some people. Like, special place in hell for not being, which is, it's a madness, right? I think the final point with Rashford and why it's been ruined, I do believe he's bought too much into his own hype. I do believe the way he keeps telling the media that he's working hard tells me he hasn't been.
Yeah.
It's one does protest too much, me think. I just feel like you're doing too much to tell us. I think he might be working hard again now, but I think he went through a period where he thought, I've made it. I'm scoring and assisting at such a rate. I don't need to put in the mileage. And sport leaves you behind very quickly. So I think there's an element of believing in his own hype, and it's unpopular opinion, but he's been distracted with his work. He's political stuff. Listen, feeding of the kids is amazing, and he should not be criticized for that. But it isn't the feeding of the kids that was the problem. It's the political side of it and the pressures that have been applied upon him from that. I think you add that in, believing in the hype, the fan poison that's impacted everybody. And as I've said, there are people that attack Rashford just because they like Martial more, and they feel like Martial gets mistreated by Rashford's fan. Like, the fanboy mentality helps to destroy football clubs. Helps. Not the only reason. And then the club just having no continuity. You put those five things together, Rashford has failed. And to your point where you're spot on, who has progressed and got better or maintained the quality that we believed them to have when they signed for the football club in the last 9 years? If someone can name me 5 players that have done it at the club, I will prove my bank balance to you now. I'll transfer you £10,000 cash now live on the air. 5 players at Man United who have joined with a certain level of quality and consistency and maintained it.
How much?
Proved £10,000.
You guys, let's start looking.
5 minutes. Find me 5 players that have maintained their quality of when we signed them, or young players that have progressed at the club. 5 of them, you name them now. You've got 5 minutes to do it. I'll give you £10,000 cash now live on the air. Show me them.
Sancho has progressed. 1.
Yeah.
1.
He's been there more than a season.
Okay. You guys, come on. We have to do this.
Name me 5.
If 10 of us band together and do this, we'll each
Someone
get
says David
$1,000.
De Gea. No, people say David De Gea's got to go because his distribution isn't there. So find me 5. But you can have De Gea if you want. Name me 5.
I don't even know who's playing for y'all, for real.
Viewers, share this stream now. £10,000.
I'm really thinking.
£10,000 I'll give you.
You guys, quick.
Someone here says Herrera, Blind, Romero, Bruno, Fellaini. Great joke. Come on now. 10K. Cash. In your pot. I'll transfer it to you now.
You guys, are we thinking?
The reason
Man United fans, come on.
I could offer you my whole bank balance.
Evra.
He ain't here anymore. He didn't get
You
better.
said in the last 9 years. You said in the last 9 years.
He got sold after like 2 years. He didn't get better or
I don't
maintain it. Harry
remember.
Maguire. Come on, 10
Who's been
bags.
there?
10 bags. Come on.
Lindelof.
Point
No,
is,
he's
I'm gonna
terrible.
slow this down now. No, I will not be losing any money. And this is why I'm angry at Rashford and believe that he may need to be sold. He may need to go. My point is, I'm not looking to. I don't look at it go. It's just because he isn't good enough. Too many players have gone backwards. Too many players have regressed. And until fans drop their player agendas and focus on the true problems at this football club, this is going to continue. This is going to continue. So we can sell Rashford and buy a better player in your eyes. In 18 months, we're back here again. Sancho will be where Rashford is in 18 months' time, 2 years' time, if the club doesn't restructure and let football people make football decisions and create continuity. Sancho will be there. Elanga will be there. I can almost guarantee it.
So here's the thing. It's like, this is why like Rashford is such an interesting character, because it's like, well, I remember when like we wanted to get rid of Mesut Ozil, and that was like a huge deal because to a certain extent, I think the club failed Mesut Ozil and every other good player that we've ever had and made them have to like do it all on their own. So the club always has some level of culpability when a player doesn't live up to maybe the standards that you thought that they would bring. But at the same time, once they've gotten to the point where they become problematic, even if it's not 100% their fault, you might need to move them on. And equally, Terry and I have spoken about how sometimes you need to set the precedent when you're changing things around. And a lot of times that has to be somebody where people think, oh, they ain't playing. And Rashford may be that person, you know, even though it's clearly not 100% his fault that he's not living up to those expectations. He's a really good player. He hasn't really progressed in a while. And I do think he was smelling his own, you know,
There's definitely, listen, there's all these factors play a part. My problem is with a lot of my fellow United fans is they focus on what it wasn't ever good enough. I'm like, so you're ignoring everything else that's wrong with the club just because it's Rashford. But when it comes to your favorite player, you detail these things. It's mad to me. Someone here says Lindelof, Henderson, Fred, De Gea, Bailly and Lingard has gone backwards and not progressed. Henderson has not progressed. He's still on the bench. Fred is nowhere near the £50 million player we thought he was going to be. De Gea, cool, you can have him. Eric Bailly was bought as a young centre-back. What's he doing now? He's riding bench. Absolutely shocking. Shocking attempt there, my friend.
Unpopular opinion. I think Fred is a lot better than what your fan base really thinks he is. I actually think he's a good player.
He's decent, but he ain't he ain't lived up to the £50 million price tag. And that
Well,
ain't on
look who he's
him.
playing next to.
But this ain't that you're losing sight of the £10,000 challenge, and the reasons that we've just said that Rashford didn't progress.
It was a sidebar that I think Fred is a better player than.
But yeah, we've got lots of excellent players in this squad. But when you add in all the things we've said, ridiculous fan wars, no continuity at the club, bad coaching, player power, people wanting to be the heroes by him, all these things are the reason that we don't progress.
You guys take fanboying to like a whole nother level. I've never seen anything like it before. I mean, we have some versions of this, but nothing like what you guys. I've never seen Martial FC, Rashford FC, like Pogba FC. Like I've never it's so deep.
Yeah, and 5 minutes are up, people, and yeah, as you say, no one could do it, and it was a challenge. It was a real challenge, but I knew it wouldn't be done because no one's done it, and that's a saddening fact about Man United. That Man United fans need to sometimes drop your emotions now about a manager or a player and go, what one player from when Fergie left till now, over a period of time, I'm talking 3 or 4 years, maintain their quality, barring De Gea because he's in that list, or who we bought that has come in. And when I'm saying young, we bought them under the age of 24. Who's gone to that next level? Who's gone to that level where like other European clubs want them and they don't get bantered by rivals? There's barely anyone. No one. We even brought in the most prolific goal scorer, striker of all time, and he can't score anymore. He's missing sitters.
Oh my gosh. Pauline in the chat, when did I talk shit about anybody's club today? Let me know, because I'm confused. Never did it.
Yeah, but you guys do that. This is what football fans do. All of us is when when you're not speaking sunshine and rainbows about somebody else's club, it's seen as negative. It's how it is. What's the challenge? I want 10K. Cam. So if you can name 5 Man United players already in the squad or purchased by Man United in the last 9 years who have maintained a certain level of performance that we bought them at. So Pogba maintained his Juve for 4 or 5 years, 3 seasons running, or a young player that's come through and been bought who has got to the initial buzz that we had about them. So how good they can be, who have reached their potential and consistency at the club. If you can name 5 of them, it's 10K. And I know what Cam's doing right now. He's going, shit, that's impossible. And it's impossible to win because it doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. There's none. And that's my point. It wasn't about trying to win money. It was about literally stating that's why the player wars have got to stop, you know? And ironically is this. If you are a Martial fanboy and you're laughing at Rashford for failing in this club, what does it say about your judgment of Martial, who is, in your eyes, a better player that has also failed at this club? Like, it's mental. It's mental. It's mental behavior. And I've always said it. I blame the dads. I blame the dads of these people. But, you know, and I agree with a lot of things people say about Rashford. But it's how they single Rashford out for that treatment and go, oh, what about, like, this guy for not progressing? Oh, but Jose ruined him. And the fans were nasty to him. I'm like, bruv, what are you talking? It's just crazy to me. I do understand why they do it. But I can't relate because I just care about my club. Much more.
Yeah. And I'm not saying that, like, because some people are like, you guys do it too. Like, I recognize Arsenal. We do the player FCs too. I do think the Man United is a little bit more deep, you know, because it's just, I've never seen anything like that. But yeah, we all do it. So
look at this here. Yo, Terry, Martial and Rashford are both underperforming, brother. Yes, I know. I said that.
Yeah.
Both. And I criticize both. You know, what I don't do is play one off against the other, honestly.
Yeah.
We have a super chat here that says CR7 will do better in a better team. The culture at the club is bad recruiting and bad management of players. As an Arsenal fan, I can see it. You are right, Isco. And real people, when they're not bantering, it's why people like don't like blaming how the clubs run on like social, because they see it as he can't really. People see it as you letting your players off the hook or managers off the hook. But you can't go through 5 systems, 5 managers, 5 teams, 5 groups and keep blaming the same people each time. It's just nauseating. Only fools would do that. Take your point, Terry. No energy for Shaw or Maguire for eating cakes and ice cream with Ronaldo.
I remember when that first came out, it was so funny because it was definitely PR. But they're not. Luke Shaw is not eating his apple crumble anymore.
It wasn't, though. You're actually missing the point on it. This is
PR.
No, listen. See, sometimes you tell me to listen to what people, Arsenal fans, say. Listen to a United fan on this. These things are what he was trying to install. I know what's happened with Ronaldo. His attitude now is one thing, but I know what's led to this. He's come in and tried to put standards back up. And he's Ronaldo. And players over the longer term have gone, fuck this. Let's go back to what we were doing. I think there was an impact for a very short period of time where everyone started to raise up. And then they went, this is too much hard work, and they stopped. You know, and for years I've had a pop at Luke Shaw and his physique. Not because I'm fat shaming, because I wouldn't do that to a normal person. But for an athlete to have moves, there's a problem with that. Unless he's got a condition, unless he has a condition that he can't help, I've got an issue with that. And it's funny, really, because I used to have an issue with Wayne Rooney's physical fitness, how he looked. And everyone's like, you shouldn't do that. And if you watch his documentary, this guy would go home after training or after games and spend 2 days just drunk in a room locked away. Like that type of behavior in your body. And I know he had the mental issues that went with it, but that type of abuse of your body is why he faded the way he did. It's why he wasn't in the condition of a Cristiano Ronaldo or a Lionel Messi, because he wasn't. And there's mitigating circumstances. And if Luke Shaw's got those mitigating circumstances, he needs to help with it. But from my point of view, I want my team to be the best possible. When you have a player that is clearly not at the fitness levels you need him to be, in a modern day game where fitness is so important now, the level of fitness you need to have to play in the modern day game is ridiculous. And when you've got a muffin top, I don't think you can have it.
So here was my point with the whole PR thing. we talk about this all the time. That may be true that he was trying to instill the culture or whatever. I believe that. But when somebody new comes to the club, they did it with Rangnick, they shove that in your face, like all these little things that, you know, they probably normally wouldn't even tell you, to make you feel really good about what the club is doing. You know, that's all I'm saying. It may not be PR in terms of like they're trying
No,
to
I hear you.
manipulate your mind, you know, because it's like we're doing well right now. Hold on.
Yeah.
We're doing well right now. And it's like they're coming out with all these things about how, you know, Arteta's putting together these themed lunches and all this type of stuff. You know, it's just media, you know, they're just trying to like get the feel goods out there.
Yes, of course
That's all.
it is. And that's exactly what it is. So it is all PR, but there is truth behind elements of it. As an example, it all depends.
Yeah, that's all I meant.
It all, and I get that. It all depends upon the mood of your football club. Right now, you can't even put a suggestion into Arsenal fans about something that has that may have a negative undertone. So you ask a lot of Arsenal fans right now, if you say, oh, do you think your club will go big in the summer and really back Arteta? You know, what would you do if they don't? Well, why are you putting it out there? Because right now the feel-good factor is sky high at Arsenal, and I get and understand it. At Man United, it's gone the opposite way. If we were sitting second in the league right now and Ralf won the majority of the games he's drawn, people would go back to the no more eating apple crumbles and the little things Ralph's done. They go, oh, it's genius. And you're talking a hair's breadth in some of these games away from that being true. It's all about how you feel. It's why I don't like the PR stuff. I kind of like to hear these positive things after things. So when you achieve, then tell us what you've done. Like with Rashford saying, I'm doing all this extra work. Great. Start playing better and scoring all these goals and winning us games. Then tell us what you've done. I don't like it beforehand when you're a club that's been failing. And for this instance, certain clubs have put theirs out earlier on this season and they're now achieving. But the point is, they put positive stuff out at the start of every season and how it's different now and what this player's brought in and whatever else. It nauseates me, really. Someone here says, what if I name you 5 Liverpool players for 5K? Well, no, because that's easy money. I ain't giving that away. Terry, Man United have been rebuilding for almost 10 years. Now, though, when will they... Sorry, almost 10 years now. Though, when will it be over? Terrible people, top in the office. Good luck to you, and big up Jess. Yeah, Jay, listen, as I've been saying for years, my friend, the focus has to be on our owners. Anyone buying football kits, anyone buying tickets, anyone putting money into Man United Football Club is a huge part of the problem. A much bigger problem than Rashford, much bigger problem than Rangnick, much bigger problem than Ollie was, because you are funding the people that don't run the club properly, and you need to take a long, hard look at yourself in the mirror for funding something that's not being run right for 10 years. And right now, it doesn't sound any... Listen, when we start running the club well, I will put my money back in. Until that point, they ain't having nothing off me, because I think it shows more love to damage the people that are damaging your club, so hopefully they make change, than blindly supporting it. It's always been my case. It's not political. It's just what it is. But there we go. True, Ronnie hasn't been in form, but how does someone that is world-class lose form so fast? Age, feelings, and emotion. You know, I don't know how old you are, my brother, but I've seen people that have been brilliant at their jobs go through something traumatic in their life, or maybe they have they don't get... I've seen someone not get a bonus they want, fall out with the management team they worked with, and then for like 18 months, 2 years, be a shadow of themselves performance-wise at work. And they're the same person with the same skill set. And these things happen. And if Ronaldo's not feeling happy at the club, all these things will play a part. It's not an excuse, but it's reasonings. People just want what I found with football fans this year, Jay, is the only reason they want you to give for someone not doing well is for you to say they're shit. Even you give a real reason, they're like, nah, that's an excuse. But that'll be what it is. Plus, his age ain't helping. Some of the goals he's missed is because the man can't open his hips quick enough anymore. Like, he's 37, he's feeling it, it's at this level. But there we go.
The Premier League is a little bit faster than he probably remembers.
Terry, how can you put a price on loving your club? I'm not. Twisted. I'm not putting a price on loving my club. I'm saying I will not fund the people to run my club in a way that makes it go backwards. That's the opposite of love, in my opinion. It's the opposite of love. The complete opposite of love.
Yeah.
That's me putting whatever the reason I do it above my club, and I believe that's just my take. So anyone who does pump their money in, If you're happy with it, that's on you. I'm not going to judge you. I'm not going to tell you're a bad person. I do believe you're part of the problem, but that's just my opinion. There we go. Everyone who's tuning in today, a massive thank you to each and every one of you. Please hit the like and share button before you leave. Get downloading our podcast version of this as well. Links are all in our description. We're back live tonight after the Champions League action. As always, Jay, a pleasure.
Thanks for having me.
Was it a pleasure? Are you happy? Or you rather be on an Arsenal podcast again? Or what are you saying?
We didn't talk about Arsenal long enough, so I'm a little bit disappointed. Yeah. I may come back. I may not.
I've got a question. It says, Terry, you can't always win. Are you a plastic glory hunter? Have I mentioned the word winning once? Did I say when United are back winning, I will all give money back to the club? Or did I say when we're being run right? Thanks, football. Got a nice try at catching me out, but it's never going to happen on that subject matter anyway. Listen, until next time, take